Thank you, Deep Roy Clow, and thank you for your statement today, Minister. I know that this bill has been worked on extensively already, and there's no doubt that urgent simplification planning law is required. Clearly, we need laws that people are able to understand, and it is right that restructuring planning laws to clarify the legal framework is going to help make planning applications and decisions more accessible and easier to understand. However, that said, critics are arguing that the proposed bill in its current form is a missed opportunity because it is a technical consolidation rather than the policy reform that is desperately needed. With the effort that has gone into this bill, it is believed that there could have been steps taken to legislate for some of the major issues facing planning, in particular delays in decision-making caused by resource shortages and the issues surrounding local planning authorities, LDPs. Technical clarity, which this bill hopes to achieve, is not in itself going to speed up the planning process or make it more efficient. Planning officers already know the rules and regulations. The issues they face are more to do with under-resourced planning departments and the number of statutory bodies and such approval bodies that have to be consulted, which can add lengthy delays. We should also not forget that planning enforcement departments are also severely understaffed. SMEs have been saying for some time that navigating an under-resourced planning system continues to present the greatest challenge, because unlike large house builders, they aren't in a position to direct capital into new projects when there are delays. I note that you have said that you're going to invest £9 million into planning and environmental decisions Wales, natural resources Wales, and the Welsh Government's planning directorate. However, it is not clear how this will directly speed up the planning and approval rate. Minister, how are you going to ensure that this money is used for the purposes that they are intended? You've also said that there will be increased planning application fees. Will these fees be ring-fenced to be used for expanding planning departments or go into general funds? Whilst I'm sure that additional funding of PEDUR, NRW and the Welsh Government's planning director will be welcomed by these organisations, what plans do you have to improve funding of statutory Counsel, Ts and SUDS approval bodies to help maintain them, to improve their workforce to minimise delays? In terms of planning, there seems to be a major issue in terms of local development plans being out of date, and this causes problems because building companies are left in a state of uncertainty. From a technical point of view, this bill is near complete and should progress fairly easily. However, would you consider strengthening this bill to include some new regulations that will help tackle delays? For instance, as I understand it, the bill intends to clarify the duties of LPAs in preparing LDPs and SDPs, including requirements for public participation statements. This part of the bill could be extended to support SME home builders by requiring LDP plans to allocate sites of fewer than 50 units, set a 50-unit threshold for major developments, and introduce a national scheme of delegation. You could also enable faster adoption of LDPs by legislating for increasing the use of short-form reviews and introducing stronger statutory deadlines for adopting local plans once they expire. Finally, Deep Roy Clow, I want to touch upon heritage and community value, areas that are close to my heart. Whilst there is considerable process for planning of new builds and changes to already existing buildings, there's no planning requirement to demolish a building unless they're protected status or in a designated conservation zone, which are allocated by the local authority. This unfortunately leaves many buildings which are of community importance exposed to the whims of developers who are not considering how a building may contribute significantly to the identity of an area and or community. Minister, you will know the amount of times we've debated this issue in the Chamber, and I've argued for ministers to intervene to protect certain buildings that CADU do not regard as sufficiently historical to require protection. These issues weren't necessarily addressed by the Historic Environment Bill, but does the government have an appetite to introduce into the bill some form of planning requirement that will be needed to demolish a building that a community sees as important to the well-being, but doesn't have special protection statuses? Thank you.